Dominique Strauss-Kahn, the accused rapist, essentially, a former IMF chief. There he is.
A man who could have been president of France at one point.
It looks like the case against him is, according to the New York Times, collapsing. Prosecutors now have real and serious doubts about the story that is being told by the maid.
Well, the prosecutor and the defense attorney and Mr. Strauss-Kahn, they're all getting together about 11:30 today, and we'll see what's going to happen. In the meantime, Beau Dietl. We brought in Beau Dietl because he's a former New York City detective. He now has his own private eye firm, security firm. It's called Beau Dietl and Associates. You know how this kind of stuff works. Anything in putting together this case not feel right to you?
Well, let's get this whole story straight. Remember, he bolted. He left his phone in the hotel. He rushed onto the plane last minute. There was something that happened in that room. It's a he said, she said. Now, from the beginning, if you notice, they set up the defense. They didn't say nothing happened because there was DNA, like you said, Greg. There was DNA that was there. So to say nothing happened, you would have been sold out with the DNA. Now what happens is with the defense, they go in there and they try to show that it was consensual from the beginning to take the crime element out.
Right. If
he gave her money, he's going to say whatever he's going to say. Now you develop. You send a private investigators. You send them to Africa, to where she lived, her family. They do things over there. And then the point is, again, you try to discredit that witness.
Beau,
it's a he said, she said.
I understand, but you're talking about what a defense lawyer would do. We're talking about prosecutors who now have serious doubts about this witness. And you mentioned rushing to the plane. Apparently, that is debatable. I mean, he was seen having a leisurely lunch with his daughter.
Yeah, they have the videotape.
Was it also debatable about the woman that jumped up over in France that said she was sexually assaulted by him? There was no evidence to that fact. But
10 years ago, yes, part of the media frenzy.
We can argue back and forth all you want.
What's your reaction? When you heard the news last night, what was your reaction?
I knew it was going to go this way because
Why?
that was
When did you know that?
Why?
Because that's how the defense was going. My friend Bart Schwartz was the private investigators that got involved with this case. He's a very fine former United States prosecutor. What it was all about was developing enough evidence to take a character that she's not truthful. And now you have her saying that she didn't have AIDS. Now you have her with the testimony. She's talking to one of her friends. Hey, guess what? You know what? I can make a lot of money. This is headlines out. Guess what? Also, the fact that she had money going into her account. Now they established the fact that there was illegal going on. She's destroyed now because she can't put her on the stand. Anything she says, the jury won't believe.
Let me ask you something. Are you a little concerned with how the prosecutor's office handled this case? This is a man, this isn't, you know, he's not a Joe Schmo like us, okay? This is a guy who has an international standing.
And that's exactly why they had to react the way they reacted, because if he was able to leave, we wouldn't have had our hands on him, and you couldn't. She had to, look, until all the cards are on the table, you had to make sure he was held here. Look at that little creep, that director guy that raped the young girl there.
Roman Polanski.
Polanski took off. We never got him. All right, with that said, they had enough prima facie evidence to lock him up on her statements. So, I mean, they didn't do anything wrong, the police department. They held him. They wanted to make sure he wouldn't fly.
One thing I want to say, though, about the New York Times story, yes, there are problems with her credibility, but they're not speaking specifically to her allegations. I mean, okay, she may have had a friend in jail talking to him on the phone. Maybe, hey, you can make money out of this.
Right.
Nothing, at least that I've seen so far, necessarily undermines the story. Somebody who lies, somebody who hangs out with drug dealers could still be the victim of a sexual assault.
And you could be an illegal alien here in this country, and you could be a victim, and you should be able to be protected by our law. You know, they always said the best place for us to do a stick-up, Greg, and you and I are drug dealers. We'll go stick up some drug dealers because they're doing something illegal,
and they're not going to
call the cops on us, right? And I mean, the way this is winding down here now, the way they leaked the story here, this looks like it's totally collapsing, and he might walk today. I definitely think they're going to take the bail off him today, and they'll say, look, we're going to have another hearing. Please come back on a certain date, but they won't have enough to hold him on any kind of bail.
Beau, this is not overzealous prosecutors who thought that this was great publicity. Jump on the bandwagon. Let's indict a ham sandwich.
This is our law. Now, if we go back into if we go away, we go out to dinner, and all of a sudden I'm driving you home, and then all of a sudden you kiss me, I kiss you, and then you say, well, Beau pushed himself on me. You go to the quad Police Department and say Beau pushed himself, I will be arrested on your statement. You know what? That's our law. That's what it's all about. Right. He said, she said. And that's the problem. Exactly. And you want to know, there's a lot of people who had consensual sex, and then all of a sudden the gal turns around and says, well, he raped me. I mean, just think about it. You can be arrested, Greg. So when you go out with these gals, be careful, Greg. That's it.
Beau.
Okay.
Let's please leave me out of this.
Oh, okay. You're like a son to me. And your tie is great today.
I appreciate the advice. Yeah. One thing that we could all do, though, in the media is perhaps take a deep breath the next something like this happens. Well, no. I mean, look, headline after headline, report after report, dragging this guy. You know, it was pretty bad there for a while. Bonfire of the Vanities.
Okay, you know, but again, this is the way our law is structured, and the detective certainly couldn't let him flee. I mean, he was ready. Feet don't fail me now. He's ready to take off and go. You've got to hold him back so you can have a trial with him.
You know, they said that one of the reports that maybe they were going to ask him to take a plea deal of a misdemeanor today.
I wouldn't do it. Brofman's too smart for that.
His attorney's not going to take
that, right? Brofman's a very smart lawyer. He's not going to take it. You got all the cards in your hands. You're not going to plead to anything. You know, that's something that's really.
So meanwhile, then our diplomatic relation, well, you know, France, they don't like us too much to begin with.
Yeah, The thing is that the French people, for some reason, forget about two wars: the World War I, World War II, when we liberated France and when we helped them out with those Nazi guys.
You know what?
And then when I went over to Paris, I'd call up on the phone. I'd be in the George Sang Hotel, and the guy would say, "Speak of French, don't speak English. You're in Paris." I said, "Look, I want room service, room service." So,
all right,
you know.
Beau, you know what? You're right. They forget about World War I, World War II. Sometimes we forget about the Revolutionary War.
Hacking.
France helped us during the revolution. We may not have an America if it wasn't for France.
Our memory doesn't go back that far.
And guess what? How about the Statue of Liberty? Happy 125 years. Thank you again, France. I like France.
I like France, too. I like French food. I like that big baguette stuff. I like the old cheeses and all that kind of stuff.
The baguette or the baguette?
That stuff. You know, the nice bread, the crispy.
Look, I like France. I'm not saying they're not difficult. Difficult, running away, you know, all that stuff. They can be.
You know, Greg, real fast. You guys got the great show on Fox called The House. The doctor to find out what
Dr. House.
So with all these hacking of corporations, Sony, Citibank, and all that. So I found these guys who are ethical hackers. And what we do is we go into corporations, no charge to the corporation. We go into corporation, we show them where their deficiencies is, and then all of a sudden we close it up and we remediate the problem. And then what we do is, because every corporation is vulnerable now, so we send these ethical hackers in there.
Your company does this?
Yeah. And what we do, Greg, it's very important because every company now is vulnerable to this. They have all these CIOs and all that. It's all great.
CIOs, CEOs.
CIOs, Chief Information Officers. And what happens is, I set it up like this. I don't charge you any money. Just let me go into your corporation. I'll show you your problems and how to fix them. And then we go in there. So now I become the hacketation specialist, like the House. I will find out what's the matter with you.
You're Dr. Hacker.
Sounds like a great service. Beau Dietl Associates will do it for us. But before you start hacketation on, I don't want to hear any excusitations for you going into my email, all right?
Well, let me tell you.
I want to know ahead of time when if you get hired by this company.
No, I said with permission. We get an authorization.
Yeah, from the boss. No. You get permission from the boss. You don't get permission from everybody in the company.
Let me tell you something. Your email is very hacketated.
It's very hacketated.
You can get it. You can pop it in. And the funny thing about this, you go to a website of a corporation. Once you get yourself in there, you're able to bounce around and go all through the infrastructure of that corporation. People don't realize that is where the hackers go through, the website. You didn't know I was a little technically advanced.
Challenged.
No,
advanced. He's advanced. Beau Dietl, thank you very much. By the way, rent Goodfellas this weekend. You can see Beau arrest Ray Liotta at the end of the movie. That's him.
Okay.
That's him.
Beau.
He does it. I'm not kidding. He's in the movie.
My hair was a little darker.
All right. Coming up on Good Day New York, we're going to look at